Joining us now is House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy. Leader McCarthy, welcome back to Fox News Sunday.
Thank you, and happy Easter to all Americans.
Happy Easter. You're just back from a trip to Europe and meeting refugees at the Polish-Ukrainian border. What did you take away from your time there?
Yeah, I just came back from a bipartisan trip to Poland, Romania, and to Brussels. Not only did we sit there and go to the border and down to the Black Sea, it's extraordinary what these countries are doing. Remember, these countries are doing all this humanitarian aid, taking millions of Ukrainians into their homes, while at the same time they've had increased their spending above 2% of GDP to protect their military and what's going on. But I would go and actually see our own troops there, the 82nd Airborne, that's responsible for bringing the supplies in, down to the Black Sea the day before they shot at that Russian ship. It is remarkable what is being done, but what I took away most from all of it is the fortitude of Ukrainian people and the devastation of what is happening that Russia is doing, the targeting of children, of women. This is going to get stronger and rougher. And what really needs to happen is Ukraine is not asking for American men and women to fight. All they're asking for is the weapons to defend themselves. If we would have taken those actions earlier, instead of waiting till after Russia invaded, they probably never would have invaded had we done that sooner.
You've said the president acted too slowly on Ukraine and say the U.S. should keep sending weapons. Just this week, the president announced $800 million more in military assistance. The United States has now sent $2.6 billion in security assistance, including shipment after shipment of weapons. What more should the commander-in-chief be doing?
Well, I had this discussion with President Biden long before, when he just would threaten sanctions after Putin entered. I believed Putin never worried about the sanctions. He only looks at, could he be deterred from entering Ukraine? Ukraine was craving the ability to defend themselves. Had we moved the weapons to Ukraine earlier, that they could defend themselves, it would have saved thousands of lives and probably the decision of Putin not to enter. And then after Putin entered, we had President Biden tell us, well, the sanctions take a long time to work. And then the president denied Ukraine and denied Poland from providing MiGs to Ukraine to protect themselves on a flyover. All of that is a wrong action going forward. But what we need to do is learn from here, provide the weapons to Ukraine, but also look to the future of what China is doing. Taiwan has been waiting more than a year for weapons they've already purchased to defend themselves. Let democracies defend themselves. This is a lesson we should learn today.
Last week, 63 House Republicans voted against a symbolic resolution of unequivocal support for NATO. Are your colleagues wrong on this one?
No, there's a strong support for NATO moving forward, always has been. NATO is the process of defending themselves, but the one thing we need to make sure these NATO countries spend the money more than 2%. In Romania, they're spending 2.5%. There is a desire there because they see on the forefront, on their borders, what is happening. We haven't seen any atrocities like this before since World War II. And there's no thought that Putin is going to stop here. What has Putin done? He's consolidated his troops. He's brought in one of the most ruthless generals out of Syria with one of the worst reputations to start entering, to try to take over the Black Sea, to control Ukraine, their inability to supply food to the world as well. This affects everybody. That's why we should stand up for Ukraine and provide them the weapons to defend themselves, where Putin cannot continue to do these atrocities.
Let's look ahead to midterms. A Quinnipiac poll this week has President Biden at 33% approval. Only 76% of Democrats approve and only 26% of independents. You've expressed confidence heading into midterms. Take a listen.
We're going to win the majority, and it's not going to be a 5-seat majority.
But Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell seems a little more cautious.
How could you screw this up? It's actually possible. And we've had some experience with that in the past.
Is there any chance Republicans are a little overconfident this year?
No, we're not overconfident. But the one thing you have to look at, why is the president's approval numbers are so low? It's the wasteful, irresponsible spending that has led to higher prices and inflation. It's the irresponsible actions of this president along the border that has led to an immigration and a fentanyl crisis. It's the irresponsible policies of this administration that has led to dangerous streets, ineffective schools, and that has got to stop. But it's got to be more than just to criticize them. What Americans want, need, and deserve is a clear, common-sense alternative. And that's what's happening with the House Republicans. We will provide to the American public a commitment to America, one that can stop this runaway spending that causes inflation, that we're able to become energy independent, not dependent on Russia or any other country for our energy, and lower the price of fuel. We will make our streets, our schools safe again. We will secure our border to stop this immigration crisis, but more importantly, to stop the fentanyl that is coming into America. We've just found that fentanyl is now the #1 cause of death for Americans between the ages of 18 and 45. And it's not because Americans are taking more drugs, they're actually taking less. It's more dangerous of what's coming across this border. That's the difference of why the president's approval ratings are so low, and that's why America will make a new course and Republicans will take the majority.
Some suggest it can't be a big red wave because of the way districts are drawn, the gerrymandering. Do you buy that?
There are fewer competitive districts because we've just gone through redistricting. And there's fewer seats for Republicans to win. In the last election, there were 30 Democrats sitting in seats that Trump carried, only 13. If you look at Virginia, for the governor to win there and to turn the House, he had to win in Democrat seats. That's why we need people to join with us. If you believe these irresponsible policies are wrong, you want a new direction, you want to hold this administration accountable, I believe join with us and we can hold this administration accountable and make the next century the American century.
To the GOP agenda, you've said House Republicans will put out proposals this fall on key agenda items, fighting inflation, increasing domestic energy production, and securing the southern border. But if you take the House back, you still have a Democrat in the White House. How will you get to actual consensus and get bills signed?
Well, we'll pass them out of the House, but I believe going through this current administration and these poor policies, remember what happened after 1994. We balanced the budget, we reformed welfare, and you did that with a Democrat in the White House after they had a rude awakening when the American public spoke very clearly that they wanted a new agenda and a new transformation. The other thing that comes with a new majority is you're able to hold this administration accountable. We're able to stand up to an attorney general who goes after parents and calls them terrorists if they want to go to a school board meeting. You're able to actually find why did we have 13 new Gold Star families based upon the peeling out Americans out of Afghanistan. We can look at the IRS releasing taxpayers' filings. Why is that going forward? There are numerous places to hold this administration accountable. We'll finally get to the bottom of the origins of COVID. Why did it kill so many millions of people across this world? Where did it start? And make sure that never happens again.
Some suggest with divided government, if we get divided government, that that's an opportunity to actually get big things done. Do you think there is any opportunity out there to tackle a major issue like, say, the nation's debt?
We have, not only can we should, and we will. This is one of the biggest problems. Even look to Democrats, and this is why I believe it's capable of doing. Steve Ratner, who was a counselor to the Treasury Department under Obama, he said the $1.9 trillion American bill that the Democrats passed is probably going to go down as one of the most extraordinary mistakes in policy. We need to have sound fiscal policy, stop the irresponsible spending to curb inflation and make America in a stronger path. But it's not just to balance the budget, you have to pay off the debt. And the only way we'll be able to do that is with fiscal responsibility with Republicans in the majority.
You say Republicans won't try to impeach President Biden for political purposes, only if he breaks a law. But at least a dozen House Republicans signed on to impeachment resolutions over his handling of the southern border. Congressman Bob Good says, quote, "How can we not impeach this president for his purposeful violation of his Article 4, Section 4 constitutional responsibility to protect the states from invasion?" What are you telling them about their resolution?
Well, theirs is very clear. They believe in the rule of law as well. We're not playing political games about some phone call that somebody thought are made up Russia collusion. What we're looking at is real policies about that's harming America. Today, you have an administration that tells every American flying they have to continue to wear a mask, but now he looks at the border and raises Title 42. And to your viewers, what that means is if a border agent finds somebody coming across the border illegally, they send them back to their country. He wants to lift that in a time that we have COVID as well. That's irresponsible in his policies moving forward. But we will always go to the rule of law, and wherever it rises, we will hold him accountable to that. But we have tried to make sure that he does not lift Title 42. We have a number of Democrats, but we have a discharge petition that only needs a handful of Democrats to sign, and it can pass the floor. This is what we need to make sure to protect not just our border from illegal immigration crossing in this crisis, but this is where the fentanyl is coming from China and others. Plus, we are catching people on the terrorist watch list from Yemen and other countries coming into our nation. We want to make sure we're safe. You know, it's a simple principle. If Americans do not feel safe, nothing else matters. And that's really becoming in doubt. That the question for the next election will be, can we afford it? Can we afford these democratic policies, not just on the border, when it comes to inflation, when it comes to crime, when it comes to gasoline, when it comes to foreign policy? In a short time frame that they've had one-party control, we have inflation higher than we've had in 40 years. We have gasoline prices higher than we've ever had before. The disrespect around the world based upon this president's actions and lack thereof on foreign policy. We have children on streets and neighborhoods that feel unsafe anymore. That has got to stop. And the only way we can do that is going to the polls, firing Pelosi, and sending a really clear message.
There are some high-profile moderates deciding not to run for re-election. I want to read a quote this week from Congressman Don Bacon about that. He said, quote, "We can't have this mindset of burn the house down. We got to be a governing party when we're in the majority." What is the mindset if Republicans take over?
Well, if you look at who's retiring in Congress, there's 31 Democrats retiring. That's the highest number since 1992. There's a reason why, because they're not even agreeing with their own policies. What we find in the Republicans, that we will have a very clear, common sense alternative that will secure the border, make us energy independent, give us sound fiscal policy to stop runaway inflation, to have our parents have a say in our kids' education. I think that is common sense, that's united, and it's not just the conference that's united. I believe America's united when you look at the polls from independents, Democrats, and Republicans alike. They want a new direction.
To your future, if Republicans take back the House, are you going to be House Speaker?
Look, that's an opportunity. The first and foremost responsibility is to take that House back, but we will be prepared to govern.
You weighed in recently about this during a House GOP retreat. The Wall Street Journal reports you said you want to move quickly to lay out a clear agenda in order to tamp down divisions. But you also said, quote, "It's Republican nature that they want to take down their leaders. It's just what they do." Do you see any legitimate challenges to your leadership status?
At this time, no. I've never seen our party more united. We're not focused on individuals. We're focused on the country first and the policies. We've never seen ourselves in this position with so many challenges out there in America since the late 70s. And we've watched it time and again that we, with the right policies, with the country united together, with our conference united, we can tackle any problems out there. Our problems are too big to fight among ourselves and think so small. And that's exactly what we're doing, putting this country first to solve our problems.
Leader McCarthy, thank you. Thanks for taking time on this Easter Sunday to speak with us.
Thank you, and happy Easter to all.